Did you know there are laws in the United States so weird? You'd swear someone made them up just for laughs. From outlawing ice cream in back pockets to banning whistling underwater, every state has at least one law that defies logic. And today, we're digging up the dumbest law from each one. Some of these are relics of a bygone era, others are just plain bizarre, and a few might still be enforceable. So buckle up and get ready to question everything you thought you knew about common sense. Hey everyone, I'm Tim, and welcome to Can't Be True, your go-to for the weirdest, wildest, and most unbelievable stuff on the internet. If you enjoy uncovering the strange side of history, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Let's start our journey through the states in Sweet Home, Alabama, where it's illegal to drive blindfolded. This law was added after rumors spread in the 1990s about reckless, faith-driving stunts, where drivers would blindfold themselves to test divine protection, or guts. While no real trend emerged, Alabama lawmakers acted preemptively to discourage dangerous dares and clarify the obvious. Eyes should stay open behind the wheel. It also gave police clear grounds to stop attention-seeking stunt drivers. Even today, the law remains on the books as a statement against reckless viral challenges. Heading north now, Alaska might win for most common-sense bizarre law. It's illegal to wake a sleeping bear for a photo. During the 1960s and 70s, thrill-seeking tourists, eager for jaw-dropping vacation shots, would actually disturb hibernating bears, causing dangerous situations and health risks for the animals. After several attacks and disrupted dens, the state passed legislation protecting bears from being used as photo props. It's a wildlife preservation law with an extra side of, what were you thinking? Heading southwest, Arizona has a law that sounds made up. It's illegal for a donkey to sleep in a bathtub. This originated in the town of Kingman in 1924. A rancher's donkey had a habit of napping in an old bathtub. After heavy rains triggered a flood, the tub with donkey inside was swept miles away. The rescue effort was long and expensive. Embarrassed city officials passed a law to prevent future bathtub napping donkeys from causing public drama. The law stuck, and now it's one of Arizona's most quoted curiosities. Next up, Arkansas, where it's technically illegal to mispronounce the state's name. In 1881, Arkansas legislators were tired of the debate over whether their state should be pronounced Arkansas or Arkansas. To settle the matter, they made the correct pronunciation, Arkansas, official by law. While no one's being hauled off for saying it wrong today, the statute still exists as a cultural safeguard. It's a uniquely legal way of preserving regional identity, and a grammar lesson wrapped in legislation. Cruising over to the Golden State, California has a law that bans driving while wearing a housecoat. This bizarre rule came from an outdated public decency ordinance in the mid-20th century, aimed at keeping women from going out in nightwear. While originally rooted in efforts to maintain modesty, the law became part of the vehicle code as California expanded traffic regulations. Though rarely enforced today, it's a relic of a time when fashion choices were regulated, along with road safety. Up in the mountains, Colorado bans keeping a couch on your porch. This law took shape in Boulder after a series of couch fires. Yes, couch fires. During college celebrations and riots. Drunken students lit upholstered furniture on fire in the streets, causing safety hazards. In response, the city banned indoor furniture in outdoor areas, especially on porches. Though not technically statewide, it's widely enforced in college towns and continues to be a weird yet logical law, born from party chaos. Swinging over to New England, Connecticut says a pickle must bounce to legally be called a pickle. In 1948, two men tried to sell spoiled cucumbers as pickles. When customers complained, food inspectors devised a bounce test to determine freshness. Only pickles that bounced when dropped could be sold. It sounds ridiculous, but it became an actual part of the state's food safety rules. Today, it's a favorite fact among trivia fans and local historians. In the first state, Delaware once banned changing clothes in your car, even if the doors were locked. This law originated during the 1970s, as the state tried to prevent public indecency in crowded beach towns. Tourists were slipping into swimsuits in parking lots, causing modesty concerns. The law made it clear, if you're going to change, use a restroom. Though rarely enforced now, it reflects the state's push to preserve a family-friendly beach image. Of course, Florida had to make the list. It's illegal for unmarried women to parachute on Sundays. This law likely emerged in the 1930s in response to concerns about public morality. Women jumping out of planes alone on the Sabbath was seen as indecent and rebellious. though rooted in gender norms and religious conservatism of the time, it's never officially been repealed. Now it lives on as a punchline, and a reminder of just how oddly specific laws can get. Down in Georgia, it's illegal to carry an ice cream cone in your back pocket on Sundays. This weird law stems from horse theft prevention. In the 1800s, thieves would stick ice cream cones in their back pockets to lure horses away without technically stealing them. The horse would follow the cone, and the thief would walk off like nothing happened. To stop the trick, Georgia outlawed the practice. While the original context is long gone, the law remains a sticky bit of legislative history. Jetting over to Paradise, Hawaii says it's illegal to place coins in your ears. This law dates back to the early 20th century when street performers and traveling medicine shows often used sleight-of-hand tricks, including pulling coins from kids' ears. Health officials and lawmakers worried about small children copying the trick and accidentally choking. It might sound harmless, but enough incidents convinced legislators to pass a ban. Now it lives on as one of Hawaii's more peculiar health and safety rules. Up in potato country, Idaho makes it illegal to sweep debris into the streets. This law came about during the early 1900s when street sanitation was a major concern in growing towns. Horse manure, trash, and food waste often clogged roads. To prevent disease and pest infestations, cities enacted ordinances requiring residents to keep sidewalks and curbs clear. While the law may seem outdated now, it was part of an early push for public cleanliness, and it's technically still in effect in some towns. In Illinois, specifically in Galesburg, it's illegal to keep smelly dogs. This strange ordinance came from efforts to reduce nuisance complaints in tight urban neighborhoods. Persistent issues with unsanitary dog pens and unwashed pets led city officials to pass a rule requiring dog owners to maintain proper hygiene for their pets, or face fines. While rarely enforced today, the law reflects a time when foul smells were a public health concern. Moving over to Indiana, it's illegal to catch a fish with your bare hands. Known as noodling, the practice involves reaching into holes in riverbanks and pulling out catfish. While some call it a sport, state wildlife officials considered it disruptive to fish populations and dangerous to participants. The law, passed in the early 20th century, was aimed at protecting both fish and overly confident anglers. Although some areas have since legalized noodling under strict conditions, the original ban still floats in Indiana law. In the heartland, Iowa has a law banning fake butter in restaurants. The dairy industry fought hard in the 1800s to keep margarine off the menu. In response, lawmakers passed anti-margarine legislation to protect local farmers. Restaurants were required to use real butter or face fines. Over time, the law became less about flavor and more about marketing honesty. While restrictions have eased, some old rules are still technically in place, serving as reminders of the butter wars. In Kansas, it's illegal to serve ice cream on cherry pie. This law is as confusing as it sounds. It originated in the early 20th century as part of strict blue laws designed to limit indulgence on Sundays. Adding ice cream to dessert was seen as unnecessarily decadent. While rarely enforced and widely mocked, the law still sits on the books in parts of the state. Fortunately, dessert lovers continue to rebel daily, with whipped cream and extra cherries. In the bluegrass state, it's illegal to carry ice cream in your back pocket. Like Georgia, Kentucky adopted this odd law in the 1800s to prevent horse theft. Thieves would use ice cream to lure horses away without technically stealing them. Because back pockets were often used as bait carriers, lawmakers banned the tactic entirely. Though ice cream and horses rarely mix today, the law stands frozen in time, pun intended. Heading down to the bayou, Louisiana bans gargling in public. This law likely began as a public decency ordinance in the early 1900s, when street spitting and loud gargling were common in open-air markets. It was considered disruptive and unsanitary. Though today's health standards make gargling a normal part of oral care, the public spectacle of it once raised enough concern to warrant regulation. Now it's mostly just good for a laugh. And maybe a second glance before mouthwash hits your tonsils. Way up north, Maine makes it illegal to park in front of Dunkin' Donuts. In the town of South Berwick, this law was enacted after repeated incidents of drivers clogging traffic by double parking outside Dunkin' locations during peak hours. The coffee chain is so beloved in New England that it became a traffic hazard. To keep roads clear, town officials made it illegal to park there entirely. It's one of those cases where love for coffee actually changed the law. In Maryland, it's illegal to take a lion to the movies. This law came about during the early circus era when animal handlers occasionally brought exotic pets into public places. One specific incident involving a lion in a local theater prompted public panic and a swift legislative response. To prevent future animal-related chaos, the law made it crystal clear: leave the lions at home on movie night. Up in Boston, it's illegal to have a gorilla ride in your backseat. This law was introduced during the early 20th century, when traveling circuses and exotic pet owners were far more common. Concerned with public safety and road distractions, lawmakers banned transporting apes in the backseat of any vehicle. While gorilla rideshare incidents are rare today, the law's specificity keeps it famous and baffling. Over in Michigan, it's illegal to paint sparrows and sell them as parakeets. This law stems from a real scam in the 1920s, where con artists dyed common birds and sold them as exotic pets. Complaints rolled in after the paint wore off, and legislators acted fast. The law is a hilarious but important reminder that fraud doesn't always involve money. Sometimes it's feathers. In the land of the 10,000 lakes, it's illegal to cross state lines with a duck on your head. This quirky law likely started as a joke ordinance that accidentally became real. Towns sometimes pass silly laws as ceremonial acts or a local humor. Somewhere along the way, this one stuck. While enforcement is non-existent, it's still cited in law books, giving Minnesota one of the strangest state quirks on record. In Mississippi, it's illegal to teach others what polygamy is. The law was enacted during the early 1900s to combat perceived threats to Christian family structures. Legislators feared that simply educating people about polygamy could normalize it. Although outdated and unconstitutional by modern standards, the law remains a weird reflection of past moral panic. In Missouri, it's illegal to drive with an uncaged bear. This law dates back to early frontier days when exotic animal owners and performers often transported animals via wagon. After a few close calls, one involving a bear jumping from a moving cart, the state passed a rule mandating that bears be securely caged while in transport. It now serves as a reminder of a time when bear handling was just another day at the office. In Big Sky Country, it's illegal to give a rat as a gift. Passed in the 1980s, this law aimed to stop the spread of unwanted pests. Pet shops were selling rats as novelty gifts, and abandoned rodents quickly became a problem. Montana clamped down by outlawing the practice altogether, unless you're using the rat for research or education. It's a pest control law with an oddly personal twist. In Nebraska, you can't get married if you have a venereal disease. This law emerged during the public health movements of the early 20th century, when syphilis and other STDs were widespread and misunderstood. Legislators thought denying marriage licenses to infected individuals would reduce transmission. Though unenforced and outdated, the law technically remains a remnant of health paranoia and moral policing. In Las Vegas and beyond, it's illegal to ride a camel on the highway. During the 1800s, camels were actually imported to help with transport in the desert. After motor vehicles became dominant, some camel riders tried sharing highways, causing accidents and chaos. To keep roads safe, Nevada banned camel commuting. Today, it's more of a desert legend than a real risk, but the law still stands. In New Hampshire, it's illegal to collect seaweed at night. This regulation dates back to the colonial era when seaweed was used as fertilizer. Nighttime harvesting often led to disputes over ownership and poaching. To reduce conflicts and keep things civil, the state passed a law requiring seaweed collection during daylight hours. Today, it's mostly ignored, but technically still law. In the Garden State, it's illegal to frown at a police officer. This law comes from early efforts to reduce public disrespect toward officials. It's rarely enforced, but was once part of a broader civility code. Today, it's often quoted as one of the strangest examples of law enforcement overreach, even though it's largely symbolic. In New Mexico, it's illegal to dance while wearing a sombrero. This law emerged as part of outdated anti-Mexican sentiment during the early 20th century. Officials claimed it was about public safety, citing obstructed vision and cultural disruption. Today, it's a cringe-worthy reminder of racialized legislation, and while it's unenforced, it hasn't been formally removed. In New York, it's illegal to walk around with an ice cream cone in your pocket on Sundays. Just like in Kentucky and Georgia, this law was meant to deter horse thieves. The cone acted as bait, luring horses to follow. While modern thieves aren't exactly using dairy products as tools, the law lives on as a relic of anti-theft creativity. In North Carolina, singing off-key in public is technically illegal. This strange ordinance stems from a set of antiquated noise regulations passed in the early 1900s. While intended to prevent public disturbances, like drunken shouting or disruptive preaching, it lumped musical offenses into the same category. Offensive singing was added as a catch-all term and over time interpreted to include off-key performances. While it's never enforced, the law stands as a hilarious reminder that not everyone's a fan of freestyle karaoke. In North Dakota, it's illegal to lie down and fall asleep with your shoes on. This law originated from lodging house rules during the frontier era. Landlords tried to discourage transient workers from crashing on beds or benches without properly undressing, especially in shared spaces. The rule eventually made it into legal codes as a quirky, moralistic standard for respectable behavior. While enforcement is non-existent today, the statute remains tucked away in legal archives. In Ohio, it's illegal to get a fish drunk. This strange-sounding law arose from animal cruelty concerns in the 19th century. Pranksters would pour alcohol into small ponds or tanks to observe fish behavior. Scientists also experimented with the effects of substances on aquatic life. Eventually, lawmakers drew the line. It's not a law likely to come up in modern life, but it's still technically on the books. And absolutely as weird as it sounds. In Oklahoma, it's illegal to make faces at dogs. This law was part of an early 20th century effort to reduce animal provocation. Dog attacks were rising, and officials believed taunting could contribute to aggression. The law was also meant to protect service animals and working dogs from distraction. Today, it's a funny yet oddly thoughtful statute that basically says, be nice to dogs, or at least don't taunt them with silly faces. In Oregon, it's illegal to go hunting in a cemetery. This rule came about during the 1800s, when cemeteries were often located near rural game trails. Hunters would fire shots close to burial grounds, alarming families and occasionally damaging headstones. In response, officials passed laws to protect the solemnity of graveyards. While modern hunting laws make this redundant, the old statute is still quietly enforced in certain counties. In Pennsylvania, it's illegal to sing in the bathtub. This law was created in the early 1900s and tied to public decency codes that prohibited excessive noise in boarding houses and apartments. The echoing acoustics of bathrooms made singing a major annoyance in shared living spaces. Though not enforced today, the law remains as a relic of communal living tensions, and possibly as a statement against poor bathroom acoustics. Tiny, but mighty, Rhode Island makes it illegal to bite off another person's limb. While obviously covered under assault laws, Rhode Island codified this specific rule as part of its criminal code in the early 1900s, after a bar fight allegedly ended in a bite dismemberment. The explicit language was added to ensure appropriate charges. While incredibly rare, it highlights just how weirdly specific some laws can be when written in response to a single bizarre incident. In South Carolina, it's illegal to keep a horse in a bathtub. Following flash floods in the 1920s, stories emerged of people sheltering livestock, including horses, inside bathtubs during storms. One particular incident resulted in a horse being trapped and emergency crews needing to break walls to free it. The state responded with a safety ordinance banning the practice. It's still on the books today. Part public safety, part legend. In South Dakota, it's illegal to sleep in a cheese factory. This odd law originated in the early 1900s when some workers, especially seasonal laborers, used factory floors as makeshift bedrooms. Health inspectors raised concerns over sanitation and food safety, leading to formal bans. The cheese might be aged, but the people making it shouldn't be napping in the brine room. It's a cheesy law with a surprisingly serious origin. In the volunteer state, it's illegal to share your Netflix password. In 2011, Tennessee passed a law criminalizing digital theft, including unauthorized sharing of paid streaming services. The law was aimed at large-scale hackers and password sellers, but technically it applies even to someone giving login info to a friend. It was one of the first laws to address digital streaming ethics, making Tennessee unexpectedly ahead of the curve, and a little harsh for binge watchers. In the Lone Star State, it's illegal to shoot a buffalo from a second-story hotel window. This dates back to frontier towns where hunting was common, even within city limits. One reckless hunter shot a buffalo from his hotel room, causing panic and damage. Local officials quickly passed ordinances banning hunting from elevated locations. The law remains as a historic artifact from a time when buffalo and boomtowns mixed in dangerous ways. In Utah, it's illegal to not drink milk. This law was proposed during a heavy pro-dairy campaign in the mid-1900s, backed by local agricultural interests. While it was never widely enforced, it reflects how powerful the dairy lobby was in certain states. The statute was meant more as encouragement than punishment, but technically, refusing milk could be seen as non-compliance with dietary guidance. Got milk? Utah says you better. Vermont, it's illegal to whistle underwater. While nearly impossible, this law actually emerged from a joke bill passed to prove a point about legislative waste. A state senator introduced the underwater whistling ban to showcase how laws were being passed without serious scrutiny. Ironically, it passed. Today, it remains a humorous monument to legislative trolling, and perhaps the weirdest aquatic law ever written. In Virginia, it's illegal to hunt on Sundays, unless you're chasing raccoons. This Sunday hunting ban was a religious blue law dating back to the 1800s. Lawmakers carved out an exception for raccoons, perhaps due to their status as pests or for allowing certain traditional nighttime hunts. The law was updated in 2014 to allow more Sunday hunting, but the raccoon clause still stands in some areas. Church in the morning, raccoons at night. That's the Virginia way. In Washington, it's illegal to harass Bigfoot. This law was passed in Skamania County in 1969 during the height of Bigfoot sightings in the Pacific Northwest. Locals worried someone might shoot a large man in a costume, or worse, the real thing. To prevent violence and promote tourism, officials declared Bigfoot a protected species. It's one of the only cryptid protection laws in America. In West Virginia, it's illegal to whistle underwater in public pools. This strange-sounding rule stems from swim safety concerns. Lifeguards reported that whistling underwater could confuse or mimic distress signals. To avoid miscommunication or accidental false alarms, pool staff pushed for the ban. Though almost impossible to whistle underwater effectively, the law is about clarity and caution, not musical talent. In Wisconsin, it's illegal to serve margarine in public institutions. Known as the margarine ban, this law was passed in the 1890s to protect the dairy industry. Wisconsin is America's dairy land, and lawmakers wanted to ensure only real butter appeared in schools, prisons, and hospitals. While restrictions have since relaxed, the original ban reflected deep tensions between traditional agriculture and processed food substitutes. And finally, in Wyoming, it's illegal to take a picture of a rabbit from January to April without an official permit. This odd rule came from wildlife management efforts aimed at protecting rabbit populations during breeding season. Officials feared that human interaction, especially from photographers, would disrupt nesting. While permits are rarely enforced today, the law still applies. So if you're hoping for a bunny portrait in winter, better check with Game and Fish first. There you have it, the dumbest law in every state. Some were rooted in safety, others in superstition, and a few, well, we still don't know what they were thinking. Which law blew your mind the most? Let me know in the comments, and if you want more wild facts, weird history, and stranger-than-fiction truths, hit that subscribe button and join the Can't Be True crew. Stay curious, stay weird, and whatever you do, don't put ice cream in your back pocket.